Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Reverend Ira Acree. I'm your host of the All Hands on Deck show. We are so excited. This is a brand new season. We're going to be out here trying to make a difference, trying to lift up the voice of the voiceless. Tonight, we have a special guest with us, but even prior to that, I want to just tell you we have a new co-host that's going to be joining us this year. Doris Davenport. She is awesome. She is a freedom fighter. She's worked with Rainbow Push. She's a radio personality, and we're so excited to have her on. We're going to be doing some great things. I'm excited. Why don't you welcome my new co-host, Miss Doris Davenport.
Hello, thank you so much. I am Doris Davenport, co-host of All Hands on Deck with Pastor Ira Acree, and I am so pleased to be with you each week as we come to bring, as Pastor Acree has said, the voice of the voiceless. It's an all hands on deck. This is what we need. The purpose of this show is empowering the marginalized and encouraging the masses to be catalysts for change. And we hope to be able to do that with you as we bring you some very special guests. And we'll start with the special guest this evening.
We're so excited to have Doris coming on our show. And sometimes she'll be filling in for me, I'll be filling in for her. And then sometimes we'll be just talking about the issues and empowering people together. You can feel free to chime in, 312-738-1060. Thank you so much, and we're excited about what we're doing here at All Hands on Deck. And today we have a very special guest, one who I'm very excited to know, one who's making a difference, one who's on the front line. He's courageous, he's confident, and he is a visionary leader. My Commissioner Richard Boykin, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Reverend Acree. I appreciate you for having me. And
Man,
congratulations on your new co-host.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to really do some great things because she's so smart, she's so bright. Commissioner, listen, it's so much to talk about. Man, you've been making a lot of noise. You've been shaking the trees, and we're very excited about it. Well, recently we were downtown together. We marched for more jobs. We marched for reducing the taxation because we have taxation and no representation. We also talked about safer neighborhoods. Can you talk about that? What's the impetus behind that? What can we accomplish from that?
Look, Reverend, I was honored to join you and other concerned citizens and clergy, Reverend Hatch and Reverend Tommy Woolridge, as we marched around City Hall with what must have been over 100 people.
Sure.
And delivered a letter to Mayor Emanuel demanding that he respond with his plan for reducing double-digit black unemployment in places like Austin, West Garfield, Inglewood, and places like that, his plan for neighborhood safety, and of course his plan for reducing the tax burden on so many people who are struggling to pay their property taxes and just struggling in general to make ends meet. And so the mayor has not responded yet, but I did run into Vance Henry a few days ago, and he assured me that they were working on a response to our letter of demands. Look, I think it's something that's basically ought to happen. Government ought to have a plan for the people, and it ought to be a transparent plan. People ought to be able to understand what is it that the mayor is doing to reduce black unemployment. And I might mention, Illinois, the state of Illinois has the highest black unemployment in the nation, has had it for the last 6 quarters.
That's the home of the first black president of the United States. How sad.
Absolutely, very sad, and that means that all of us who are in elected positions, all of us ought to work with our business leaders to make sure that we have a county, a state, a city that is actually business friendly.
Sure.
And that will attract jobs and help create jobs and sustain jobs for communities. Look, without these jobs, people are hopeless in these communities. And so that is the case in many of these zones of terror, like in Austin, where we have an unemployment rate of 22% that's stated. Black unemployment among males is upwards of 50% in Austin, and Austin has one of the highest levels of people coming back from prisons throughout the state of Illinois. It's one of the highest zip codes. We also have, a lot of hopelessness, and that's driving a lot of the violence that we see. Look,
And that's what I want to deal with. We're talking about this hopelessness, and I was at one of the town hall meetings that you hosted last year. In fact, it was at our church in Austin. You have a series of town hall meetings coming up, specifically in the foremost, what we call the endangered communities. Last year, you held a series of 9 similar town hall meetings. At these meetings, residents, they were very emotional, of course. They had concerns, they had criticisms, they had compliments as well as accolades. And I think when you listen to them, sometimes you get some real sound solutions. I have a two-part question here. How do you report the summary and action taken as a result of these meetings back to the community? How does that information get back? Is there a written document? And has anything been proposed, been implemented so far?
So, look, those endangered community meetings were just what was needed. A lot of people in those communities felt like nobody really cared about them.
Absolutely.
Like nobody was listening to them. And look, when you have so many people who are being shot in these communities and who are being killed, quite frankly, we must do everything we can to help them understand that this too shall pass, and government can help with solutions. Obviously, we did a report, an endangered communities report, where we provided recommendations that came out of all of those town halls.
Well, there's some solid recommendations, you think?
Very solid recommendations. In fact, some of them are being acted upon right now. Okay. That report is on my website at www.richardrboykin.com. People can get that report, take a look at it. But one of the main things that came forward as a legislative piece was the Neighborhood Revitalization Act. That bill will provide free homes for police, firefighters, teachers, and paramedics who live and work in endangered communities for 5 years. We have 80,000, upwards of 80,000 vacant and abandoned homes and lots in the city of Chicago. Quite frankly, we must put those homes back on the market. We must put those lots to good use. These lots have become, and these vacant homes have become havens for crime. And so we must make sure that individuals have an opportunity to live in these homes, become tax-paying citizens, and we got to revitalize the neighborhoods. One of the best ways to do that is bring professionals back into the neighborhood. Now, look, we understand that the hue and cry about gentrification and all of that, but I believe if you have a police officer who lives in the community, who understands the community, and who has a stake in the community, that officer is going to be more apt to be sensitive to the community's needs. Same with a teacher.
312-738-1060. We want to make sure that any of our listeners or our viewers that would like to talk with you, Commissioner, they can chime in because you got so much information, but so many people, they love to talk to you, and I don't want to dominate it with just me and you doing all the talking. I want to give them a chance to call in, but I want to ask you one thing specifically about that Neighborhood Revitalization Act. Of course, I certainly support it because I see the vision of bringing police officers in and firefighters and teachers and paramedics and EMTs, and city workers. But certainly, when I got back to my community, standing up with you, a lot of people brought up a different perspective, and they basically thought about how most of these different departments are dominated with whites, and African Americans and Hispanics are a significant minority. And so many people are sitting back saying, wait a minute, our commissioner's out there, instead of helping us, it seems like he is helping the dominant culture. A lot of people feel like, what's being done for black and brown people that are struggling? Because every report emphasizes that blacks are struggling more than any group. And in the big picture, is this just something that ultimately leads to gentrification, or will there really be a safer neighborhood that's diverse and not just run all of the blacks out?
Look, I think it'll be a neighborhood that's diverse. I think you need diversity. Look, there are no poor white communities of all 77 neighborhoods in the city of Chicago. There are about 9 to 10 predominantly African American communities where you have 98, 99% of blacks, where the neighborhoods are very poor. And those are the communities, quite frankly, where a lot of the crime exists.
Sure.
And so we know that you got to have a stable environment. And so what happens though with policing, and the mayor agreed with this plan. In fact, he implemented his own plan of neighborhood revitalization similar to this, and it's on the records, you can Google it. But he put $3 million into a program just focused on police and firefighters,
Okay.
and said, hey, we will help you with down payment assistance if you move to some of these communities that are endangered communities. I mean, Inglewood, Lawndale, West Garfield, Austin, they're all on his list. And
So are you saying that when people criticize this particular plan that says a lot of whites will move into our neighborhood, is your response right?
Well,
Because we need diversity?
my response is this, is that I talked to a number of African American officers who are excited about the Neighborhood Revitalization Act, who want to take advantage of that program and that plan.
Sure.
What happens is the rookies, they don't get to pick where they're going to go. As soon as you come out of the academy, they put you in some of the toughest districts. As you gain seniority in the police departments, you get to choose where you want to go. So most people say, well, I want to represent downtown, the Gold Coast, and places like that. They don't want to come to Austin. They don't want to come to Inglewood, places like that, because one, they don't have the cultural training and stuff
Sure.
like that. But quite frankly, what we hope to do is make it so that we can have a number of African Americans who are attracted to this plan and this program and who will take advantage of it. I want to see everybody take advantage of it, though, quite frankly, because
Sure.
I think it's needed.
Sure. Well, what message does this revitalization plan send to the blacks who are struggling, who sit back on the sideline and say, well, when is there going to be something that's going to help us? What's your response to them? Because you will have those people that will speak up and say, those are the agitators, I call them.
My response is that, look, we can complain all day long, but until we put forward
I agree.
plans and policies that will help impact these communities, nothing's going to change. Quite frankly, we've had decades of failed leadership. We've had decades of
Thank you.
of violence that is, we can no longer continue on this trend. And so it's up to people like yourself, myself, and others to rise up in these neighborhoods and say, wait a minute, why is it that my neighborhood looks like Iraq or Afghanistan? Why is it that every weekend we can look forward to 41, 42 people shot in a 3-day period in the city of Chicago and about 10 people killed? This is not right in a civilized society. And so until we can guarantee the safety of people in these neighborhoods, nothing else really matters.
And the thing about it, what we have to commend you for is that you have a plan. Other people are complaining, and you're out on the front line. Some of these other politicians, I don't know what they do throughout the week because you don't see them, but you're out here on the front line and you're trying to cast a vision. The Bible says, without a vision, my people perish. And certainly you come up with a plan, and there's never going to be a plan that's insulated from criticism. All right, thank you so much. We have a caller on the line. Welcome to the show. You're on All Hands on Deck. Ira Acree and Doris Davenport with my guest Richard Boykin.
Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Well, yeah, I'm a little disenchanted, I guess you can call me critical, because when I think about the last 40 or 50 years, the South and the West Side have been two of the most dangerous places in the United States. Now, we've had a Democratic mayor in charge for the last 40 or 50 years, and we've had nothing changed. We had 1,000 people, 1,000 extra cops over the holiday weekend, but over 100 people got shot. So my question to you is this. Certainly Chicago has the methodology and the capital to change these two areas, but they haven't done it for 40 or 50 years. Do you honestly believe with the new latest program that change will be coming when we haven't had change in 40 to 45 years?
Thank you for your call.
Look, I do believe that we can change things, and it begins with one person at a time. It begins with one home at a time. I encourage him to take a look at my 7-point plan. It's on my website. The number one point in the plan is an investment in parenting. Look, an African proverb says that the ruins of a nation begins in the homes of its people. I believe that. I believe that these single parents who are raising their kids and grandparents raising grandkids, they need the supports that they deserve to help raise those kids. They need mentoring. They need help, and so we need to provide them with that. But look, what I'll say to the caller is this, is that he's a part of the solution. He has to stand up and he has to let his voice be heard. And if people aren't making the kinds of changes that you think they ought to make or putting forward solid proposals, then you need to lend your voice to the arena of public service. And that means you need to look at an office maybe to run for and lend your voice to it.
That's
It's
one of the
not
things
easy.
I agree with you on, again, is the fact that you are hopeful. I mean, there's no room for pessimism. If you don't have a plan that you believe in, and you have just basically written off the community, we have no real reason for electing people like you in office. So I like the fact that you are visionary, you're confident, and you're courageous. You can't be fearful out here. Time is moving so fast. I want to transition a little bit here. The Cook County Board recently passed the infamous beverage tax,
Right.
which applies to many sugary drinks and frankly got a lot of pushback all across the county, particularly from small businesses who said that they would be driven out of business because of this overwhelming taxation. This tax moved democracy to action, with protesters taking it to the courts, taking it to the streets, and this time they won. Democracy at its best. I want to ask you, where does the tax stand, and was this tax supported by a large majority of the commissioners?
No, so it was the tax on sweetened beverages is an unfair tax. I voted against it along with 7 of my colleagues.
Okay.
It takes 9 votes in order to pass anything on the county board. It was an 8-8 vote.
Oh, wow.
And President Preckwinkle broke the tie by voting for it. I think it's one of the worst taxes ever. It's a regressive tax.
It's amazing to me that she's passing a tax, and that's how she beat Todd Stroger. But go ahead, I cut you off. That's amazing.
Well, look, I don't want to get into that, but what I will say is this. I talked earlier about making the county conducive for businesses and making it business friendly. What this tax does, and the judge has basically issued a temporary restraining order. It was supposed to go into effect July 1. The county said that we would have realized if it had gone into effect about $68 million. President Preckwinkle will likely send out layoff notices on Friday to about 900 people in the county, and basically say if we don't get this tax passed by the courts, then she's going to have to cut 900 jobs. What I think is most unfair about that is that they basically sold this tax as a public health tax, basically. But really, we're seeing now it wasn't about public health at all. What this tax is about the budget. It's about supporting jobs in the budget.
Sure.
And we should never, ever do a tax that's untested and put people's livelihoods on the line. And so that's why I'm so adamantly opposed to it. There are other ways that we can do it. I proposed an Uber tax that would have raised in excess of $25 million or more. I've also proposed 2 years ago a 5 cents increase in the gasoline tax, which would have raised $50 million for a youth jobs program. We would have had $100+ million in that program right now. Look, gas prices have been historically low, and we see our friends in Indiana raise the gas tax by 10 cents, and they passed that already. And so we're way behind the curve in terms of thinking outside of the box and what is it that we do to, do things that are conducive to making our county grow. It's a terrible tax. That coupled with the highest sales tax in the country, which the county board passed as well, and I voted against. I'm proud of. We got to listen to the people.
738 1060 312-738-1060. You still have time to get on with the commissioner. Commissioner, it's election season, and you're up for re-election. You are up for re-election, and I know they're going to be coming after you because you have taken some positions, let's face it, against the mayor, and you stood up. I don't even want to say you necessarily stood up against the mayor, but I think you were trying to stand up for the people. You stood up and took adversarial positions against Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle. How will the optics of pushing an unpopular tax for her and losing in court affect her reelection, and how do you think it will affect yours?
Look, I think once voters are educated about what it is that policies that people push, they'll make the ultimate determination. And I just pray that voters are, are educated when they go to the polls. I don't worry about the next election. Quite frankly, I think that if you make decisions that are principled, people will reward you with, another term in office. But quite frankly, I don't worry about those things because I'm going to do the work of the people, and we will continue to do that on a daily basis, no matter, whether I'm in office or out of office.
One of your colleagues, since we were here together, has gone home to be with the Lord, a great brother, beloved Commissioner Robert Steele. Is there anything you'd like to say regarding his legacy?
Look, I think his voice will be missed in the county, especially in Lawndale and the district that he represented. I think he was a class act with a mighty voice. It will be a big void to fill.
Rest in peace, Commissioner Steele. We have a caller on the line. This is our last caller of the show. Caller, welcome to All Hands on Deck.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So thank you for taking my call. I wanted to ask if the commissioner could speak to the mindset of politicians when they make decisions to tax to pay for programs rather than cut programs. I feel as living in Cook County and living specifically in Chicago and Cook County, everything is taxed and nothing is ever cut. Is there ever any thought at the county level about cutting some services?
Yes, I appreciate your call. I will tell you this, that I believe there are places that we can cut in the county. I believe that there is excess, there's waste, there's fraud, there's abuse. I believe that there are a number of things that we can do to get a handle on the county budget. I don't think that the president has necessarily seized those things to cut.
Sure.
Quite frankly, it's easier for them to go into the taxpayers' pockets and ask the taxpayers to pay more. But that's why I voted against the sales tax increase, and I voted against the beverage tax increase because, quite frankly, we're going to make the county less competitive because people are going to actually go to DuPage County, Lake County, and Indiana and buy their beverages.
And the thing about it, I think the mass exodus is going to continue if we keep overtaxing people. That's what I'm afraid of.
I agree with you. Look, the state has lost more population, so has the county and the city than other places in the country. So we got work to do.
We got a lot of work to do. And Commissioner, I really thank you for coming on the show with us. We never could complete all of the questions that we have for you because we have so much to accomplish in such a short time to do it. So I want to thank you for coming in today, coming into the studio, and I want to thank each and every one of you, our viewers, for watching All Hands on Deck. We look forward to a great season. Take care. See you next time.